Welcome to the Dental Marketing Podcast, a podcast that helps dentists win in the online world of modern-day marketing. Each week, we cover the most cutting-edge marketing tactics and strategies that are working right now across our client base to drive leads, phone calls, and more new patients for dentists. Now, here's your host and founder of Kickstart Dental Marketing, Chris Pistorius.
Hello, and welcome to the No BS Dental Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Pistorius. And on this show, as you know, we talk about straight to the point, no BS, tricks and strategies to help you grow your practice by marketing. Now, there's no fluff here, just great information that you can take action on starting today to increase your bottom line. So if you're a dental practice owner, a manager, a front desk professional, or really whatever, be sure to click the subscribe button below so that you can keep up with all of our latest tips and tricks. So today we're going to talk about something that a lot of dental practices overlook, quite frankly, and that's the importance of your front desk staff. And not just the staff themselves, but also how they're trained and how they're trained to not only do their job, but really represent your practice. And I've said this before to clients, and I've said it, I think, in other podcasts, but I truly believe that the front desk staff could be the second most important position within your practice. And I know that seems a little bold to say, but hear me out a little bit about this, because there's a lot of things that you may not be thinking of or that you may be overlooking in terms of how important this front desk staff thing is. And there's a lot of times we are asked by, potential clients or clients, the business isn't as, or the practice isn't as successful as it has been, or we're not seeing as many new patients as we used to. And once we start diving in and really looking at the entire situation, we find that a lot of times it's lack of really good training processes and procedures at the front desk. And so what we did internally for our clients is we developed an online training to help with some of this. Now, whether you're a client of ours or not, this could be a gap in your business, and this could be one of the reasons why you're not quite as successful as you want to be. Now, don't make too much fun of me today. I've got my full Kickstart dental marketing gear on. I got the hat, I got the shirt, I got everything at the backdrop with a little bit of our logo in it. So don't make fun of me, but it's what I had to wear this morning. So anyway, let's talk about why the front desk is so critical, in my opinion. Number one, it's your first impression, right? It's the number one, it's the first person that somebody's going to talk to on the phone. And then when they come into the practice, that's the first interaction that they have a lot of times with your practice, if they're a new patient, right? So a lot of times patients will automatically develop their opinion of you and your office and whether they're going to come back to you or not based on that very first impression. So don't overlook this. It's absolutely critical. If they're a new patient, they come in and they don't have a great experience that first time in, or the front desk person is, heaven forbid, rude or busy and just can't give them the type of interaction that they expect, there's a good chance they're not going to come back for whatever treatment that you advise to them. Okay. The second is that they do have a role in patient care, right? I've heard docs talk about this before. Well, our hygienist or our dentist or our, whatever, they're the ones really, dealing with patients and making sure they're taken care of. That's absolutely not the truth, because there's a lot of people that will come into your office and they'll be a little apprehensive about going into a dentist at all. There'll be people coming in that haven't been into a practice for years and they've ignored their health care with their oral health care. And so they're on edge, either that or they're just scared of the dentist and they're scared of the thought of the pain and what is this going to be? And then there's people that are just in general have high anxiety in any health office situation. So the role that your front desk plays in healthcare and patient care specifically is that they have the opportunity to start putting them in relax mode immediately, right? That means over nice, over just, sympathetic, empathetic, very good tone to their voice, not panicked in a rush, paying attention to every word that they say. Those little things will add up to a lot with your front desk staff. And then by the time the patient comes back to you or the hygienist or whoever, they've automatically started going into that kind of relaxed mode, thinking, you know what, this probably isn't going to be as bad as I thought it was going to be, right? But your front desk absolutely has a factor in the patient care, and a pretty big one as well. Another thing that you really need to think about here is marketing. Now, I'm the marketing guy, right, for dental practices. And I tell clients this all the time, and potential clients. I'm like, your front desk is really going to determine the success or the failure of any marketing campaign that you do. And that's regardless of if you use a company like mine, or if you go out and buy a billboard or billboards, put your name and face on, bench or on bus stop benches, things like that. If you do direct mail, if you do whatever. Okay. And the reason why that's the case is because when these people reach out to you, okay, if they pick up the phone and call you, who are they going to reach? Typically the front desk professionals, right? If they, happen to just walk in off the street because they got something in the mail, front desk professionals, right? So if your front desk is not trained in how to talk to potential new patients and get them scheduled, it doesn't matter if you spend $10,000 a month or $1,000 a month or a few $100s a month in marketing, it's not going to be successful. Okay. And, a lot of people probably say, oh, well, I've had my front desk person for 10, 15, 20 years. I know that they do a good job. Well, do you? I mean, have you really looked into it? So during this podcast, I'm going to really dive into this part of it pretty heavily and really make sure that you understand that, maybe your front desk person isn't quite as trained as they need to be. And are they really good at, talking to potential new patients that find you online? Because think about it. If somebody finds you on Google, right, they don't know anything about you. They just see a listing on a Google page, and they might go to your website. They look at your reviews. They, look at driving directions to see where you're located. They have no loyalty to you. They don't understand what your unique selling proposition is of why they should choose you versus your competition. Guess who's supposed to do that? It's not going to be you as the doctor or you as a front office manager all the time. It's going to be the front desk person. They have to be trained to be able to talk to potential new patients who don't know who you are and be able to talk to them about why you're great and why they need to schedule an appointment with you. Now, I'm not talking about used car salesmen or, timeshare presentation people. That's not the type of sales we're talking about. We're talking about very consultative, professional. Hey, did you know? Did you know this? Did you know that? Right? Type of professional that can help schedule a lot of these appointments for you. So those are just a few of the reasons of why this front desk position is so critical and why maybe you could be missing out a little bit with this. So I want to talk a little bit of how we talk to our clients about how to develop front desk staff and how to develop procedures and processes to really help get them trained and fully up to speed. There's a study, and I'll try to post it in this video later, but I believe it's 70% of front desk professionals don't have any professional training, right? They just kind of showed up to work, and over the years they developed their way, and that's it, right? And then there's another stat that shows up to 60% wish that they had professional training, and they feel as though they would be more satisfied with their jobs if they were professionally trained, because they understand, front desk people know that it's part of their job to get these new patients scheduled. And as much training and development as you can give them to be good at their job, they're going to feel better about their job. And that's going to slow down your churn rate. You're not going to get as many people quitting and, having to hire new people and things like that. So a couple of the ways that I talk to and I consult with clients on how to get through this is, number one, develop scripts. And then I get the eye roll typically of, oh my gosh, scripts. I don't want my people, reading off as scripts when they answer the phone. That's not the point. And that's not what I'm talking about. I don't want you to develop scripts so that, somebody's just reading verbatim. My name is Chris Pistorius. Welcome to our practice. No, that's not it. What I do want to do though, is I want to put processes and procedures in place and give them scripts as ideas, right? Like, okay, this is what we really want to convey in the first 2 minutes of a conversation with a potential new patient. This, and this, and here's some ideas on how to talk to them and how to answer their questions while still staying on track and getting the outcome that you want, which is the potential new patient or the patient actually signing up and coming into the office, right? So develop scripts that give them an idea of what to say as well as objections, right? So if you're fee for service and somebody says, oh, well, I've got Aetna or I've got Cigna or whatever, guess what? Those are still potential leads for you, right? Do you have an in-house plan, for instance? How much is this, this care really costing? Or, the famous one is, all right, I need dental implants. How much are they? Right? Well, it's more complicated than that. I mean, we realize that, but people on the phone don't. So you've got to have scripts and help your staff understand how to overcome objections. And it's not for them just to read off of a piece of paper. It's to get it into their mind of what needs to be accomplished and then let them put it into their own words. And you can't just build the script and say, here you go. You've got to work with them a little bit on it. So whether it's a consultant like us, if it's a front desk manager maybe, or if it's you yourself, if you want to do that, you've got to not only give them the tools to learn it, but you've got to kind of role play with them a little bit and put it in practice. That's what really, starts the muscle memory of the brain to get them to do this every time that somebody calls. Okay. Second thing is what I'd like to see front desk people do, and this is kind of the marketing background of me, but how have you heard out? How did you hear about us? Right? Now you'll hear me in podcasts say how you heard about us is incredibly inaccurate, and it is, because it's too complex, right? Because they could say, oh, I saw you on Google. Well, guess what? There's a lot of different places on Google that they could have seen you. And as a marketing person, I want to know, was it a paid ad on Google that they saw you? Was it within the organic section of Google where like SEO type work would happen? Was it a local service ad? That which is different than a regular ad. People don't know this, right? They're just going to say, I saw you on Google. But anyway, we put stuff in place so that we know where they came from. But have your front desk ask this question early on in the conversation while it's still fresh in their brain and they're not searching around for, credit card information or insurance information. Get this early in the conversation. It will help you with internal marketing, and it'll just help you kind of keep the conversation on path. Hold times. This is a passionate one for me. My team listens to every call that comes in for our clients, and we determine if they're good calls or bad calls, if they're good patient leads or if they're not good patient leads, right? And what we hear a lot are holds. And the worst hold is where they pick up the phone and says, thanks for calling ABC Dental. Can I put you on hold? Click. No go. I mean, that's common sense, right? But you'd be shocked about how many times it's happening. Hold times are no good in this industry. There's going to be times when it absolutely has to happen, but there are better ways to do it and more professional ways to do it, right? Don't ever just put somebody on hold and hit the button. Wait for them to respond, acknowledge their response, and then politely put them on hold. They cannot be on hold more than 15 seconds. Let me buffer that. 15 to 25 seconds, okay? The reason why is that you have about 15% of the people are going to hang up at 40 seconds. That's the stats, okay? 15%, and you'll probably never hear from them again, okay? The average hold time for a dental practice is 56 seconds. Now, you're probably thinking, oh, we don't do that. Are you sure? How do you know for sure, right? We have systems that we put in. I'll show you an example of one of these in a second, where we can calculate and show exactly how many calls you missed, how long on hold they were, where they came from, of course. But if you don't know and you're just kind of assuming, you're probably wrong, okay? And 1/5 of the calls for a dental practice go to voicemail, okay? So you have to be responsible to know when your calls are coming in and what's happening to those calls, and not just asking and, what do you think? Are we missing a lot of calls? Nobody's trying to be deceitful here, but they don't know for sure either. They're busy and they're taking calls and they're putting people on hold and all this stuff. So they just get a sense of it, but they don't really know for sure. So I want to show you an example just really quickly on my screen here. That's going to show you one thing that we do for our clients, and maybe you could, incorporate some kind of a system like this as well. So what you're looking at is one of our reporting screens where at the end of the month, we talk to our clients about what happened the previous month. And so this is some stuff that we put into play, some of our technology where we track our calls. So it shows, okay, for this month, you missed 37 calls. That's a lot of calls. That doesn't mean they're all, new patient calls that are just dying to come in and get dental implants or whatever it may be. But I bet you a good percentage of those are, potential new patients. And we do differ them. So these 37 calls would be people have never called in to you before, okay? We had 28 go to voicemail. Okay, that's a really high number. So we're missing, almost 8.5% of all the calls that come in. Okay, that's a problem. We need to figure out what's going on there. And there could be a couple of different things here. There could be a technical problem with your phone system. We've seen that before, where you guys didn't even know about it. And something like this popped up and you're like, oh my goodness, at 3 o'clock for some reason our phone system's automatically going to voicemail, right? It could be something like that. But we've really got to dive into the numbers. So we look at like missed calls by the time of day. Like for instance, in this example, a little bit high number at about 11 o'clock in the morning. So is that a lunch period for people? Is it just a lot of calls? And then we look at call volumes, throughout the month and over the last 12 months. And this is just one shot. I've got more details too of exactly like, what happened on the call, times of the day of missed calls. And then of course we have all the call recordings and we can look into a lot deeper. But we really want to make sure that, our clients realize that, look, if we're going to spend money in marketing, let's make sure we answer the phone, right? And, a lot of times it's a technical problem or it's just a personnel problem that they didn't know that they had. And there's some pretty easy solutions to this, right? Maybe we need to hire some more front desk professionals. Maybe we need to hire a service that can pick up an abundance of calls, right? There's a lot of bad companies that do that. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of good companies that are qualified to do that too. And it doesn't cost an arm and a leg, but there's solutions to this. But the first thing here is really to understand the problem. And once you understand the problem, that's when you get really to the solution part of it. So I'll stop sharing my screen here and get back to kind of what I'm talking about. So, hold times, hangups, voicemails, those are all easy things to overcome.
Are you looking to grow your practice but are a little unclear on what the best way is? Let us help you out. We have over 13 years of experience in helping practices just like yours increase new patient growth. Just go to kickstartdental.com and sign up for a free strategy session where we will give you some great insights on how to take your practice to the next level.
The next thing would be, we see a lot of front desk professionals at no fault of their own, but, they don't do any sort of like assumptive closing or assumptive scheduling of the appointment, right? So an example of that we hear a lot is that the potential patient will ask them a question. How do you do your dental implants? What materials do you use for fillings? Do you offer same-day crowns? Things like that. Well, every time they ask a question like that, that's a buying signal. They want to get help, trust me. They're just hoping that they can find somebody that's going to fit with them culturally and make them feel at ease and that they're professional. So we always try to teach front desk professionals that after you answer 3 questions or sometimes 2 questions, or if it's just a very pointed conversation, maybe it's just 1 question. But after you're into the conversation for a little while and they ask a question about pricing or something like that, after you answer the question, don't just not say anything, right? Because that gives them an opportunity to like, oh, okay, well, whatever, thank you, bye, right? After you answer a question, say, and we've got an appointment for that on Tuesday at 2 o'clock or on Wednesday at 11 a.m. Which one would work best for you? Boom. You've now just put it in their mind that, yeah, I have a problem. I want to get it taken care of. And yes, these people can get me in on these dates. And then they'll either say, all right, yeah, let's do the 2 o'clock at 11 o'clock or whatever I said, Tuesday at 11 o'clock, right? Or they're going to give you another objection. And that's fine because at least then you know where you are in the conversation, right? So they're not quite sold on you guys yet. And so if they ask another question or they give an objection, answer that, get through it, and then do it again. How about would that Thursday at 2 work or, the Tuesday at 11? Which one's best for you, right? And keep doing that, right? And you'll keep getting objections of why perhaps they're not willing to schedule that appointment. You'll get the opportunity to overcome that and then try to get the scheduling again. That's just one example. So bottom line, when they ask a question, it's a signal that they want your services. Just don't have your front desk people go silent at that point. Let's find out where we are with this person and let's find out what it's going to take to get them scheduled. Okay. Not tracking calls and conversion rates I have here in my notes. So I showed you a little bit of how we do some of our tracking, but we track every call, every form lead that comes in for our clients. And again, we know if they're good leads or bad leads, where they came from exactly. So we know if they came from a Google ad, organically on Google, Facebook, wherever. It's not easy for an individual practice to do this. I mean, if you're not getting marketing help by a professional, then it may be your best bet here is just how did you hear about us, right? But if you need some help with that, let me know, because we can actually just give you our tracking system, and you don't have to do marketing or anything. We'll just track your leads for you. And that's a one way clients work with us as well. But really try to track as much as you can and calculate conversion rates too. So if you had 100 calls come in, how 100 brand new patient calls come in for the month, how many of those actually showed up at the office, right? Or how many scheduled, and then how many showed up, right? So you get kind of an initial close rate, and then you get the actual, all right, the person walked into my office rate, right? Two different things. And you can do that by team members. So if you're in a little bit bigger of office where you have multiple front desk people taking calls, I mean, we can track, how successful each team member is. And so if one person is, at a 70% closing percentage, if you will, and another one's at 25%, well, you're not just going to fire the 25%. Obviously, they need a little bit more help and a little bit more training. And, it's an opportunity for them to get better. So we want to look at that too. But we also want to look at call quality, right? So as a business owner, as a dentist, whatever, you don't have time to probably sit there and listen to every call, right? And I'm not saying that you necessarily need to, but somebody there needs to be listening, spot checking calls, okay? And just make sure that the way that we teach our front desk professionals to always be nice, always be smiling, right? Always be over the top in terms of being easygoing and just a good manner, professional manner about that. You've got to make sure that that's happening, right? Because everybody has a bad day, and if we need more training with our front desk on this, it's well worth it, and it's the only way to know. So listen to these calls, record them, spot check them, and do it consistently, because that's the only way you'll know for sure. But we also teach front desk professionals to always be personal, right? And that seems obvious. That's the oh duh moment, right, Chris? But one way that we do this, and a lot of people don't do it, and it's use their first names. Get their first name early in the conversation. Judy, Tom, Sally, whatever, right? And use that first name as you're speaking with them later in the conversation. People love this, right? Because you're making a personal connection with them. So Tom Jones is a person that called in. You find that out early. You know how they heard about you. And then, a minute goes by and you're conversing, and then you say something like, now, Tom, we do have an in-house plan if you don't want to use Cigna, or if Cigna isn't part of your plan, whatever. Did you know about that? And again, you've used his first name, and that connects with him. And he's like, oh, wow, these guys really do care. And they're personalizing with me. It's kind of a, psychological thing. So use their first names when possible. And lastly, and I'll close it up after this, is that you haven't put all of this stuff, right? And there's a lot more stuff too that I could ramble on about for probably another hour or so, but there's a lot more stuff in there that needs to be documented and put into what I call a playbook. Okay. It's like a SOP, right? Standard operating procedure. So you put all of these things into a playbook, right? You document it. And then when you have somebody coming in, or somebody doing training, or a new employee, you have a playbook to put in front of them. Of course, you still have to train them on them, but you've got it organized, and you know exactly how you want your procedures to happen, right? And if something changes in your procedures, then it's up to the person using your playbook to make those updates and those changes based on whatever, right? So standardize everything, put it into a playbook, and make it much more easy for your front desk staff to be trained and to use it as they're during their day. They should really have this playbook open, especially if they're new to using it, open at all times while they're doing their job, so they can quickly reference it. So anyway, enough on that. I hope it gave you some ideas, and I hope it will help you with your front desk staff, just make them that much better. So, because it is such an important and critical role within your practice. It really is. So anyway, thanks so much for listening in today. If you like today's episode and you want to hear more of them, please make sure that you subscribe, because then you'll get notified of all of our new episodes. We typically try to do one of these about every week or so. And then if you subscribe, it'll automatically notify you, hey, there's a new recording. Go out and check out the No BS Dental Marketing podcast. But anyway, if you have any questions on this, please feel free to reach out to me directly. My email is Chris, CHRIS, @kickstartdentalmarketing.com. I appreciate your time, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Dental Marketing Podcast. Make sure to visit our website, www.kickstartdental.com/podcast, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Spotify, or via RSS, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. If you are ready to grow your practice, then you might want to schedule a free strategy session with us. Just go to kickstartdental.com and click the free strategy session button and give us 15 minutes of your time to change your practice forever. Be sure to tune in next week for our next episode. And thanks for listening to the Dental Marketing Podcast by Kickstart Dental Marketing, where dentists go to win online.